Naira devaluation is ongoing strictly because of two things, right? First, you understand that the CBN, as much as it's meant to regulate the market, has also taken on board itself as a control measure, in that it fixes the rate in the market and doesn't really give room for market dynamics to determine the FX rate. And we understand that from the production perspective, manufacturers need FX to import goods for them to manufacture products. And we also look at it from the service perspective, where we have a lot of Nigerians seeking for vacations abroad, people going for education tours, medical tours, and they need FX. Last year, in May, the CBN came out to ban BDCs, in that it no longer sells FX to the BDCs, right? And however, it's been unable to meet that demand that Nigerians need for FX. Further to that, it has also given some directive or guidelines that has now increased speculations in the market that is causing this increase
free fall
in Naira against the dollar. Yes, right. Exactly. Right. So we've already given an announcement to say by December, students can no longer access FX and will have to look for it for alternative. So that speculation alone is allowing people now ramp up to say we need to gather, because by November, there'll be scarcity and the price is likely to go up. So you're giving more power to black market operators and to illegal BDCs still operating in the market.
The issue with Nigeria's FX situation right now is a liquidity problem and an inflow problem. So the CBN, we had already mentioned earlier that, crude oil is a major contributor to foreign exchange in Nigeria. The CBN cannot go and solve the theft issues in the Niger Delta. So that's not the CBN's purview. However, one big thing that the CBN can do is manage liquidity. And this can be done by slowly removing the peg on the exchange rates. Nigeria cannot maintain a managed, they call it a managed exchange rate, but as far as we're concerned, it's more or less fixed, right? We cannot continue to manage a fixed exchange rate system. It's not sustainable. Countries that have fixed exchange rate systems have huge foreign exchange reserves that they're able to use to back up these fixed exchange rates. So to maintain the exchange rate at a certain level, you need to be able to pump in money when the demand is high, right? And you need to have a continuous inflow of foreign exchange into your economy. We don't have that, so we cannot continue to, maintain it. And one big thing about sort of effect of this managed exchange rate system is that it prevents, investors from knowing what rates to use. Today, the exchange rates, official rates are like 420, 417 or between 415 and 420. And parallel market rate is practically 700 Naira. So the difference is just too much. And we saw in 2020, when investors tried to get their money out of the country, they had to wait because there was no liquidity. There was no foreign exchange liquidity. It took for some of them, they even started investing in some stocks where they could now transfer their stocks to other stock exchanges. So stocks in companies like Seplat, where they could now, get their money from the London Stock Exchange. So things like that are just too much. But if you have a flexible exchange rate system, people know at every point in time what the exchange rate is, or at least they can sort of predict what the exchange rate would be over time, and that helps investments. What that does as well is that it gives people the confidence to bring in their money. As an investor, you would eagerly bring in your foreign exchange without the fear of the CBN saying, "Oh, there's no forex right now. You can't take your money out," and all that. So it also helps, inflow of forex, right? It's also important that the CBN sort of communicate this liquidity. It's not enough to have it, but if you come out and say, "Oh, you're banning BDCs," or you're going to stop giving banks foreign exchange because you don't want the exchange rate to go out of hand, it communicates that there's a problem with liquidity, and that just causes people to panic. In 2012, and I just want to give an example of how powerful a central bank governor's words can be. In 2012, when there was the Euro crisis, the EU crisis, right? All the central bank governor at the time, Mario Draghi, had to say was the central bank would do whatever it takes. So he was like, the ECB would do whatever it takes to, defend the euro. And investors believed, they didn't even know what the central bank was going to do. But then there was an inflow of demand for ECB securities. And that just caused, it was almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. Eventually, the economy stabilized again. So all I'm saying is that if the CBN continues to come out and communicate indirectly that there is a problem with foreign exchange liquidity, investors will run away because no one wants to put their money in an economy where they will not be able to take their money out when they feel like it. So another thing is the CBN needs to stop funding the federal government. Like, it's time to let the federal government go, because what that does is, with Nigeria's ballooning debt profile, it reduces our credit risk, our credit rating. If investors think that your country has a shaky credit rating, they would not invest, right? So if you continue funding the federal government, the credit rating continues to drop. Investors will not invest in the country's securities. Not only in the country's security, not only in the government securities or the CBN securities, but also in individual companies. Because if they fear that your government will not be able to pay, then they fear that the country would go into a recession or would go into a downturn and things like that. And they don't want to put their money in places where, the economy is going down. So if the CBN continues to fund the government, we're already talking about a debt service to revenue ratio that is above 100%. These are signs of distress. If the government continues, and it also toys with the independence of the CBN. It also feels like the CBN is not detached from the government. If the CBN is not detached from the government, then it becomes politicized. The CBN is supposed to be an independent body. It's supposed to be independent of the federal government, and it's not supposed to be pouring into the federal government the way it has.